In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to perfect your skin, but before we go into the makeup portion, I really want to emphasize how important skincare is. If you're using cheap products or not drinking enough water, it's going to reflect that in the makeup. Makeup doesn't necessarily correct texture, but it can correct color. When you're trying to perfect your skin, it's really important that you don't skip the skin prep. So if you miss things like moisturizer or exfoliating, then it's not going to make the makeup sit very nicely, and you're probably struggling the whole time and your makeup might separate and things like that. So it's really important to make sure that that base is achieved and put on properly, and you're using products that go together instead of products that oppose each other. The first product that I'm using is a softening lotion, and its name is Lightful Sea Marine Bright Formula by MAC. And what it does is it just gives the skin a refreshed, soft, clarified, bright look. It's packed with vitamin C, so it's really great in improving the appearance of the skin, and it helps with the texture. I like this product because it works with most skin types, but if you have a product that is better suited for your specific need, then I would use that. The next step is moisturizer. So regardless of your skin type, you want to use a moisturizer because, as I said before, makeup can't change the texture of your skin, it only can change the color of the skin. So you want to make sure that you're doing as much as you can for the texture. So even if you have an oilier skin type, you can choose a lotion that's going to help control your oil throughout the day, which is going to keep your makeup from separating and make it sit really, really nice. One thing that I want to point out before you actually choose a moisturizer is sometimes people have their skin types wrong. You might actually have dry skin and you think that you have oily skin, but the issue is your skin is overcompensating the oil production in order to make up for your dryness. So do pay attention to things like that. For Molly in particular, she does have a combination skin type. You can see some large pores around her T-zone, but there are some dry patches on the outer corners of her face. So I'm choosing MAC's Charged Water Moisturizer. I feel like it's really great for sensitive skin and good for combination and drier skin types. If you do have a true oily skin type, then this probably isn't the moisturizer for you. But as I mentioned, be careful because you may actually have a dry skin type. Whenever you apply a moisturizer, you really want to work it into the skin. On yourself, you can use your hands. On other people, I like to use a brush, but you really want to massage it in, and that way the skin's gonna look very supple and just a lot healthier instead of dull and dry and terrible how it can look sometimes. The last thing that we're going to do for the texture of the skin is more of an illusion, but we're going to use an illuminizer, and what it's going to do is going to create a very youthful glow to the skin. I like to apply it just where the face would naturally have a little bit of shine to it, and keep away from areas that are going to make your face look greasy, like the middle of the forehead, for example. For Molly, I've applied it with a brush, and then I'll just use my fingers to kind of blend it in and warm it up to the skin. Next, I'm applying a primer to mattify areas that don't need shine, and this is also going to help with the longevity of the foundation. Okay, now that we've finished prepping the skin, we're going to focus on the color of the skin or the tone of the skin and any of the corrections that it needs. I'm starting off by applying MAC's Face and Body Foundation with a synthetic brush so I have really light coverage. When you're perfecting skin, there are a few important things to consider. Number one, you don't want to start off with too heavy of a foundation because very full coverage looks really unnatural. So you want to start light and build where you need to build. The second thing that you need to really consider are the tools that you're using. Pay attention to your skin type. If you have dry skin, you don't want to use a brush because any buffing motion is going to lift up the dry skin and your face is just going to look flaky and the makeup will just stick to those dry patches, and that's not very appealing at all. Instead, you'd want to use a sponge, and in general, sponges are good for all skin types, so you can really do a lot with just a sponge and you don't really even need a brush. The last thing that you want to pay attention to is the foundation needs to match your skin tone. So you never want to match really to your face or neck, but instead you should match to your chest and your upper arms. Of course, if you have a condition like rosacea, and even your chest sometimes may have rosacea, you're not going to want to match to that. But you are wanting to look at the overall picture of your body instead of just matching to your face, if that makes sense. I find that most people need a yellow-based foundation. Even for Molly, you can tell that her face is a little bit pinker, but if you look down at her neck, you can't really see her arms or anything, but she has very yellow undertones in spite of the redness in her face. So the foundations that I've chosen are going to correct that redness and help cancel it out with that yellow undertone. With a damp sponge, I'm using a medium coverage foundation to go back over the areas that need a little bit more coverage, which tends to be the center of the face and the cheeks. By using two different foundations and different levels of coverage, it's going to allow some of the natural skin to show through, which is going to make it look great instead of looking like you're wearing a lot of foundation. If you have freckles or something that you want to show through, then I would skip the medium coverage step and move right on to concealer. Okay, so the color of her face is looking a lot more even overall, and I'm going to set that foundation with a translucent powder. I'm choosing to set the foundation before I use concealer because I feel like it gives the concealer something to adhere to and it makes it last a little bit longer. It's also important to note that I'm using a translucent or a transparent loose powder because colored powders can actually change the color of the foundation, and that's going to undo all that color correction that you just did. Since I'm not going for a really matte look with Molly, I'm going to touch down where I need to minimize the most amount of shine, so the forehead, the chin, and the smile area. Whatever's left over on the brush, I'll blend out onto the rest of the face to just help set that foundation. The secret to perfect looking skin is concealer, but you need to choose the correct color of concealer for perfect correction. You can see the difference in these two palettes. One has more of a green or yellow undertone, which is going to be good for correcting red, and the other has a pink undertone, which is going to be better for correcting dark circles or dark spots on the face. Okay, so this blemish here has both red and a little bit of darkness or like a blue purple to it. So we're going to use both colors to correct. I'm going to start with the pink color because her skin is more yellow, so we want to lay down that pink first and then finish with the yellow. The other important thing is to match the level of the skin. If you choose a concealer that's too light, you're going to end up with white spots on your face. And I know it's tempting to do, especially if you're like, oh, but this spot's a little bit darker. No, you're using a full coverage, and as long as the color is canceled out, once you lay down the layers, it's going to go away and you won't have a lighter spot on your face. Instead of using a full coverage foundation to hide everything, use color theory to get the best results. If you choose a foundation that has more of a yellow tone, it's going to help cancel out any of that redness, and then you can go in with a full coverage concealer and get all the blemishes. So that's what I'm doing for Molly. I'm going to continue with the rest of her face and any little spots that she has and cover them in the same manner. Now, if you're thinking, but I have way worse skin than she has, I would really consider going to a dermatologist. I used to have really bad acne when I was in high school, and I saw a dermatologist so that I could correct those issues. And I've also gone and have laser and stuff for the rosacea that I have, and it really helps to kind of seek out professional help so that way you're not just caking on a bunch of product to hide those problem areas that you do have. I'll include a link below that takes you to my blog where I talk about how I solved my acne problems. Now, using the same translucent powder, I'm going to set all of those little spots that I just corrected. If you feel like some of the spots still need a little bit of coverage, you can go back in with the concealer and continue layering with concealer and powder until you get the coverage that you desire. Again, just be careful that you don't get a little bit too cakey in those areas. Since I'm done using powder, I'm going to finish off the skin by using a concealer under her eyes. She doesn't really have dark rings, but there's a little bit of darkness there, so I am going to use the same color theory rule of a pink base concealer that matches her skin tone so she doesn't end up with raccoon eyes. And I also don't set the under eye area because I feel like it enhances fine lines. Since we used foundation to make her skin tone overall more even, we have to put back in some of the contours that a natural face would have. Also, it helps to kind of correct any facial proportions or imbalances that are there. I personally love dewy skin, so of course I'm going to add a highlighter. It's important when choosing a highlighter to choose one that matches your skin tone. So for Molly, I've chosen a peach-based highlighter. And I'm going to use that highlighter on a fluffy brush and also on my finger for a more concentrated amount on the high points of her cheeks, the tip of her nose, and above her cupid's bow. Well, that's pretty much everything you need to know for perfecting your skin. If you have any other questions, leave it in the comment box below. And of course, as always, there's more information on my blog. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.